is a postgraduate program that the UPN University developed in an agreement with the United States government. It's a like a civil association that is helping programs to be developed in countries with the aid of Georgia State University. Okay, so students of a master's were in charge from Georgia State University to develop some of the materials that we have for this specialization. This specialization was especially created to help English teachers in Mexico to improve the teaching practices. It is important to mention that in 2006, 2007, English language became compulsory for elementary school. Before that year, it was only compulsory for junior high and high school. And in those programs, the students only have 3 hours a week, like 3 classes, 1 hour each, in both levels, 3 for junior high, 3 for high school. And nowadays it is compulsory, but till today, the English subject is not reflected in the records, in the grade records, okay? Well, so mainly the specialization was to help teachers working in the public schools, because when this policy from the education of ministry came out, they didn't have enough teachers to give the classes. So what they did was to hire people who have the language till a certain level. Okay, the level required back in those days was level B1 according to the Common European Framework, and but they did not have. They were also required to have a bachelor, but in any area. So they could have vets, dentists, engineers, anyone with a bachelor could give the English classes, and they didn't need to have any knowledge on methodology or teaching practices. So that's what this idea came from, to help teachers in practice, teachers in service, develop their teaching skills. The specialization is an online program, delivery completely online, okay? And as I said before, is for teachers in service at any level, from kindergarten to postgraduate programs. And, okay, let me see. And the idea is to strengthen their teaching skills. Okay, this is our campus. Okay. One of the objectives of the specialization is not just to improve teachers to acquire teaching competences, but also to improve their language level through content, okay? So we have so far witnessed that participants, teachers indeed improve their language skills as well as their teaching practices, which is one of the main objectives of the specialization, since the requirement is only B1. And nowadays it changed in 2013 to B2, okay, which is kind of low. Another important component is the regarding technology. It's also one entire module is devoted to develop their technological skills to be incorporated in the class. Okay, and promoting as well the use of authentic materials, to adapt materials, and to help the students also achieve some technological competences. So we have here the digital skills, the language, and the context, which are the main axes that we promote. Well, this is the name, it's entirely online, and as I said, it's for teachers in service. The main objective at the beginning was for junior high, because in those days it was only compulsory the English in junior high, but nowadays is in elementary. Okay. The specialization lasts 12 months. They have very few weeks of holidays. They need to have an undergraduate degree. They need to have English up to B1. And, well, they need to know that they will spend at least 15 hours to work with the specialization. John?
I'm sorry, what is a normal school?
For teachers. A normal school is a school for
teacher training.
For teacher training, but just for elementary. It's only for elementary, from 1st to 6th grade. Well, and theory underlying the specialization is, this is which probably is the most important part, because it's, the participants taking the specialization have to be teachers in service, because all along the program they will put it into practice all contents and theory they're revising the specialization into their classrooms. Okay, so all projects, assignments, homeworks, everything they do has to be related or has to be incorporated into the current classrooms. Okay, so that's the idea, that they need to see their classes as their classroom as a laboratory, where they have to be trying everything they learn, everything they read about, they have to put them in practice and report results. Okay, well, these are the main goals of the specialization, which, well, one is social, which is to contribute to better practices in our country, okay? Because as Ellen well always said, it seems that before, in junior high, teaching English was a complicated task, very complicated, considering that in public schools, groups have up to 60 students in one classroom, and where there is no division in levels or skills or anything. And Ellen was saying that it's like kind of an injection, no? As like a vaccine against to fight English. Okay, so this was a common practice, and we discovered that in many of these classes, the classes were delivered in Spanish. So the teachers were explaining in Spanish the grammatical rules, translating the vocabulary. So one of the purposes is to promote the communicative competence above all the other goals. Our core ideas is the social practices, the functions of language, English in use. The teaching is the learning tasks, is collaboration, where all the participants exchange experiences, since they are old, and some of them have been teaching for several years and in different levels. Okay, well, so for many of them, this is the first time they see some theories and concepts regarding language learning and methodology, and a new component, which is multiculturality and interculturality, which is seminal in the English teaching programs. And finally, to use the technological component as a vehicle to improve language skills and to improve the classes. Okay, this is the way our syllabus, the way the specialization is formed. There are 3 modules. Each module lasts 12 weeks, 3 months approximately. The module 1 deals with language acquisition and learning, where we revise different language theories from behaviorism up to sociocultural theory. We also, of course, revise the comprehensible input and the input theories. Here, the idea, the teaching skills they develop is to observe the teaching classes, to reflect on the practices, and also to have the opportunity to reflect on other teachers, to observe other classes, to analyze and to see what kind of theory is, what philosophy they have been applying so far. You can ask me questions anytime. Eh?
Is it going to turn into a empirical study at some point? Because I think those are really good.
At some point, it is, because it is in the teaching context.
Yeah.
So all projects are completely different, and it depends. We have some participants working in small communities where they probably have people that speak Spanish as a second language. So the approach is completely different. So that's why our assessment is individual. Yeah. It's because it's, as you well said, empirical. So this is what we expect them to move from this posture, as I said, where they were teaching even in Spanish in some cases, and where it seems that structuralism was the key element to move on to a completely different paradigm. So it's to conceive the language as a system of rules, structuralism, to as an intercultural dimension, to language in use, to the communicative competence. To move from grammar, where they see items as just structures and isolated ideas, to a holistic process. Language in isolation, to language in an intercultural content, where interculture has proven to be a key element for the students to develop the language competence. They come together. Both knowledges interact at all times. And then, okay, from dogmas to knowledge construction, and from teacher-centered to a student-centered approaches.
Hi everybody, Kelly and I are going to talk about our experience when we developed this program. We were invited by Elaine to design this program, and it was a real challenge. So then now,
well, the program has several parts, but we're going to concentrate on course 1. And well, first we're going to start with a little bit of the context that we had, that we were asked to plan a course for teachers, for primary and secondary teachers who were in service and who had already taken an exam and they didn't get the results expected. According to the National Certification of Language, CENI, that is a certification we have here in Mexico, but having a correlation to the Common European Framework, that it's a C1 level, they didn't get the results expected. And those teachers teach English as a second language, as a subject, in primary or secondary school. The course was also was going to be offered to teachers in all Mexican Republic, and this course would be part of a bigger schema, which was oferta de regularización, that included secondary and different other subjects like mathematics, history, etc. We were asked also to plan 4 modules with thematic blocks and to cover 40 hours of practice. Later, after we had already started our plan, we realized that they would also be taking another type of exam, which is called the APTIS.
all this program, the whole program, is worked on 4 courses, 3 courses, and we worked just on the first course. And this course, we based our work on these principles: the teaching based instruction, content language teaching, content based language teaching, and learning to learn. Then this proposal design was worked under these 5 axes, which was where the learning to learn strategies, So then in our program, we gave our teachers some strategies for reading comprehension and listening comprehension. Then we worked some language skills such as communicative skills. They needed to do some task in order to improve their communicative skills. Language focus, they work on some grammar structures. And test-taking skills, they had at the end of the block, they needed to do some tests. And the classroom project development, which was done after each block, included or was centered, as I told you, in teachers in service, principally or mainly secondary teachers in service, which needed to consolidate or to practice a little bit more in order to get a higher level in CENI or in the Common European Framework. Also, the course was planned to be offered online. So there would be a tutor to support their work, and also students would practice oral and written, in an oral and written form. They would use a platform, which is Moodle, and all the work we did, we had to was uploaded into that platform. And in order to have the accreditation, teachers had to cover certain work from the whole program, from the modules and the blocks. Okay. From the objectives of the course, we have like developing communicative skills, listening, reading, writing, etc. In context, familiarize, so people would familiarize with grammar structure, vocabulary, etc. And also working with some strategies, including learning to learn strategies. And of course, evaluation was included there, not only with an exam, but also evaluating process. Talking about the content, the general content of our course included different sections that are also planned to be graded in the exam they are going to take, which is reading, listening, use of language, including grammar and vocabulary or lexic, and oral production, written production, and we also incorporated some schoolwork project development so they could also use what they see in our course in their classes. Okay, the syllables in our course was divided in 4 modules, and these are the contents like dilemmas, we were talking about news, important events, and the final project. We developed this structure in our course. We had 4, remember that we were working with 3 courses and we're talking about one of them. And the first course was divided in 4 modules. For example, here we have module 2. Each module would have 2 blocks. The first block was focused on general topics, and the second block was focused on content. Information related to education or to their area of work. And both blocks would have several activities, and the activities were divided in welcome, you will learn, what you already know, the warm-up, and then working on the language itself, which was reading, use of English, listening, speaking, writing, and to finish the session we had like the you just learned, like a wrap-up activity and closing. And we're going to show you some sample activities. We decided to have 6 activities presented as samples from the general topic, and 6 activities for those topic, the topic that is for related to the class, no? That it is focused on the content for teachers. And here we have just some images on the platform. So we started with the welcome, and then we had here the objectives of what our students were going to learn. And we also mentioned and had some activities with their previous knowledge, just to know and let them know what they needed to work more on. And the warm-up, some activities, and the reading.
This is a sample from the reading before. Well, here I only pasted the activity they had to do. They had titles, and here was the text, and they would have to drag or select the correct title for that.
For each paragraph.
For each paragraph. And then we have use of English, And in use of English, we have several activities. There are only some examples for the passive voice, for example, and they're working with the future. From the activities that had to do with their content-based, which was educational issues in general, we have those ones. Let me show you the listening. From all these, we selected authentic material, and all the exercises, we produce them and we elaborate them, paying attention to all the methodological content that Rosie mentioned. And for example, here we have the video before, you see? Thank you. We have a video, and then we have some activities. For example, here in this activity, we have multiple choice activity, and in the other case, they had to fill in the blanks, because that was the type of exercise in the exams they would take. Then we have speaking. In speaking, we decided, especially in this section, that it was related to education, to have certain scenarios where they would feel involved or more connected. And they had the task to do, and paying attention to a criteria of how to plan it, but also how to grade it, and a checklist also to see how they are planning their speech and how it is going to be graded. And then we have writing, also connected to education. For example, can using technology in the classroom lead to a possibility that we will end up with more efficient and skilled students in public schools? And well, they have to select the topic that appeals to them, and then they would plan their composition, right? And to the end of the whole block, we had just to learn, like a wrap-up activity, checking what we were focusing on during the whole block. And finally, the closing, right? We would like to show you how the platform is, and now it's there.
So I think that Rick did a good job, right? And we would like just to share some of our experience while developing this. And this is our conclusion, which are basically our challenges that we needed to face. Because here with Ellie, Rick, Ellie and I, we're the ones who work on this, right? So then, Ellie?
Well, it was a big challenge. There was lack of time. At first we didn't know what we were preparing, because we didn't know really the population. And Moodle, I think, as a platform, is a little bit limited in the way they present the exercises to what we wanted. We wanted that they drag or did things like this, and Moodle was not that generous. And the list is longer, but we just put time. But it was a great experience.